Heyo! So, fun fact about me. I do pretty much daily live streams on my TikTok. It's just every single day I go live. And I sit and I draw in my sketchbook. And as you can see, we've managed to fill it up quite a bit since the last video because I've been forgetting to make YouTube videos. Either way, every single live that I have, I always have people asking me, can you do a body tutorial? Can you show how you draw bodies? Can you tell me how to draw a body and all that? And I've been saying like I'm gonna make a video about it. At first I was thinking of just making a TikTok video, but I've settled on making a YouTube video where I can go through everything. So this is my way of doing it. This is by no means the right way, the correct way, or how you should be doing it. It's just how I do it, and maybe you can take a few learning moments away from it and see if there's anything that you can implement into your art style to make it work for you as well. But this is just my way. So that's what we're gonna do today, and I hope you enjoy it. So, the very first thing that you gotta think about when drawing a body is that in its essence, the body is just shapes. All you ever work with is just various shapes. I'm gonna use a Posca marker to be quick and efficient, right? So, different bodies are based on different shapes. You can have a body based in squares, like that. You can have a body based in triangles. Or you can have a body based in circles, and pretty much everything in between. And this all develops you, how the musculature you draw works. I mainly draw male characters and male bodies, so that is what I'm going to be focusing on in this video. So, when drawing the male body, how I like to do it is that I do it differently every single time. What the fuck? I do it differently every single time. Which is, that's my fault. I usually begin somewhere around the shoulder region, though. You have these shapes, triangles for your collar, just a little tube for the neck, and great old circles for the shoulders. For the square body, just go down like that. The waist goes in a little bit, and then the waist is typically a triangle shape because there you got the hips, you got the groin, got all of that. Next up, you got your legs coming in. The knees. Knees are kind of funky little shapes. You can use just circles for those if you want to. Do weird tubes for the legs. Same thing goes down here. Like that. Now, I hate drawing feet. Feet is the bane of my existence. But for the most part, it's just a weird little triangle. Water dripped onto the page. That doesn't really help you. You can use the tube method for the arms. Like that. Squares for the hands. Those arms are a bit too long now. And then I like to use a square for the head because the plane of the face is head. And we're going to get into heads and faces later on. Now, this is just your bare bones skeleton. You can see the chest here is a square. This is a square. Everything is just squares, circles, and triangles. This is all you're ever going to work with. Pretty much. Now, you have all those basic shapes. And that means that you can draw most any body, but it's not really gonna look good if you just use that. The thing is, you need to work on enlarging the shapes, make them more defined, all of those kinds of things. So, to give you an example, once again, we start with the same sort of bones. I like to draw the head, a little line that connects it to the shoulders, just a line there. I do a line for where the waist is because then you can decide how big you want to make the torso. Lines for the legs and for the arms. Now you gotta think about how you want to build this shape up. This is your bare bones. You can make a line through there to think of where the skeleton is. This is gonna be a very stiff pose. Just putting that out there. So, right now, you got the square for your chest, slightly smaller square for the waist, and then a triangle down here for the hips. Putting flesh on these bones is what makes a body, of course. You have the chest, the rib cage, the waist, the hips, the groin, the thighs, the knees, the feet, shoulders, arms, and that's your basic body. This is pretty weird because, you know, going straight in with pen, not really sketching, but that's essentially how you do it. You put the head on there by just making the chin, pulling it up, and boom, this man's got a weird old head. Another thing you have to think about is the shapes of each of the limbs. While you can use a tube for the base of an arm, the arm isn't tube shaped. If you looked at your own arm, it goes out and it goes in. So think about, you have these bones that you work with. I learn by using lines and circles. You don't have to, that's just how I do it. Your shoulder is a ball, and then in there, and that's where it connects to the the pectoral. I'm stupid. That's where it connects to the pectoral. You can already see you have the shoulder and you have the beginning of the chest right there. Your arm can start here from your elbow, goes in, and then you have a little bit that goes out. Same here. Some people like to use the chain link method. I just draw it freehand like this. And then your lower arm is pretty much the same. It goes out right around here, and then it goes a bit in, and you can see that you have the shape of an arm right there. Fairly simple. For your leg, there's also the tube method that you can use. Put a little ball in the middle of it for your knee. But once again, that doesn't really look like a leg now, does it? You can still use the balls for a basic shape. Your hip juts out a little bit, and then it goes in. Same thing here. The knee is funky. Everybody draws knees differently. I draw them like this, little shapes like that, and then two lines. And then your calf comes out. It goes in a little bit. You have these little weird nubs that you have on the sides of your feet. I don't know what they're called. As you can see, I've never studied anatomy. So even if you don't study anatomy, you can still learn. Either way, then you got the foot coming in, and you got bada bing, bada boom, you got a leg. Look at that. You got legs, you got arms. The chest is it's pretty simple. You got your square, goes in a little bit like this. So you got this sort of octagon. This is an octagon. A really drawn out octagon. But that's really all that the chest is. It's just pulling out those details, finding where what musculature fits. You can already see that you have a chest right there. And when drawing a body, all you really have to do is mishmash these shapes together. If you are uncertain about freehanding like this, references will always be your best friend. Go on Pinterest, go on Google, wherever there's also line of action, anything like that, and you can find references to work off of. When using a reference for drawing your bodies, the best way to go about it is in trying to find a fairly simple pose. This is the pose we're gonna go with. Just gonna turn it around. So you can do this exercise digitally or traditionally, whether you have a printer or not, or if you have a book full of pictures of bodies, something like that. But essentially, what you're gonna do is grab a pen or grab a brush on your digital program, whatever you're comfortable with. And instead of tracing it bit by bit like this, trying to get all the little details of the body, what you're gonna do is find your shoulders, find the line in between there that is that entire part. Draw just a line up to the head, put a little square where the head is. You can make 2 squares because, you know, she's facing sideways. Just try to find where all of these little details, every single shape that you can find within the body, just try to find those. Don't think about anything else. Don't think about the details. Only think about the very basic shapes that you can find. Because as you can see, as soon as we remove that, you can still see the basic form of the body. A step up from that is grab another brush, grab another pen, whatever you have in a slightly different color. And once again, find more detailed shapes. Don't go into all of the details. Just find the bare minimum. Don't trace it fully. Just think that's sort of the shape that you have going for that. Once again, the shoulders. You have the tubes. The triangles. Just try to find a bit more detail without tracing the body fully. Not all of the details. Don't want that. You just want the very basic shapes. And I would say don't do this on, because once again, when we take it away, you can see you got the basic body. And don't do this on other people's drawings. Find still life, find pictures of people on Google, things like that, and use those. Don't use, if I were to take one of my own drawings, so let's use this drawing for an example. This was all freehanded. So don't go around like finding somebody else's art style and like, oh, I really like this art style. And sure, there are a lot of people where you want to emulate art styles. You think they're neat, you think you like them. But don't go and find an artist and then go, oh, but there's the head, and then there's the shoulders, and then you got the chest, and you got the arms. Especially when there's a lot of clothes like this, it gets kind of difficult, gets a bit tricky. Because yeah, you can find the basic shapes, you can find the pose, you can find all of that, just like you could with anything else. But you are effectively stealing somebody else's art, something that somebody else has already created. Same thing goes for when you're tracing... When you're tracing specific features. Like, sure, you could trace like this, but then the artwork in the end is just gonna look exactly the same, maybe a bit wonky, because you're not as used to these shapes or some things like that. So it's gonna look just the slightest bit off, but you can still tell where you took it from. Which is why it's better to learn by using actual pictures of people. And even if you want to learn how facial features work, for an example, instead of using other drawings, here you can still find the basic shapes in her face. If you just trace her face like this, you find all of the little details, the makeup, why she looks the way that she does. You know, you can still find all of these things. And then you can use that knowledge to implement it into your art style. Maybe you want to remove some of the detail lines. Maybe you want to make the eye a little bit bigger. And you can already see that you are slowly stylizing it. Maybe you don't want all these details. Maybe you just want slight bumps. I've seen art styles like that, and you can already see that this picture that we've taken with this woman, you've already changed the facial features into somewhat of an art style. And that's really all that finding your art style is. It's just finding small things that you can exaggerate or change to make them fit how you want to draw them. But to make an art style first, you have to understand the basics of anatomy, because otherwise it will look awkward. So, now that you got all of your bare bones down, there is, you know, the musculature that you have to think about. You can go so in depth within musculature. So let's just take this one for an example. We're gonna do one of the pectorals. Because you think the muscles, you know, they go in like this, and then you have the actual tone of the entire muscle. And you can practice these kinds of things, draw the muscle strands to learn. I do highly encourage doing anatomy and muscle studies, but also just thinking about where they would logically sit on the torso, some muscles, you can still get into drawing these details without having to do a full-on study beforehand. So the abs, basically, you have a line going through the entire torso, split it in half, and then you divvy each of these halves up in halves again. This is just the most basic way I can describe doing it. And then you have lines going like this. That's the waffle abs, you know, that we all know and love, that we all started with. There are a few lines going in from the ribs right there. And, you know, if your art style makes you able to do this, then I envy you. But the best way to stray away from just the waffle abs is to just add teeny tiny curves. Just curve it in a little bit. These kind of like little diamond shapes here from the ribs. Curves, make a little Y shape there in the corner. You already got your belly button right there. Got the lines going in from the crotch that go into the hips later on, and then whoa, you got stuff over there, you know. But already you can see that you have the muscle definition without having made it a waffle. And this is by no means right. There are different muscles that look different. They're probably not as long, I'm not a professional. As I've said, I haven't properly studied anatomy. I am self-taught, so don't take everything that I say as what's the truth. But this is how I do it, and this is how I draw everything in my sketchbook. And all of my drawings, this is how I do the anatomy. So, if you do a quick flip through in my sketchbook of every single drawing, we have the first drawing that we did here. I used the same kind of technique with just lines, squares, shapes. I'm trying to find something that I can actually show. Same thing here. As you can see, I sketch with orange first. You can see the square that I've used for the chest. You can see I used the square for the head, shoulders, these shapes for the arms. Everything here is just the very basic shapes that you could possibly create to make a form, to make a figure. And that's always how I do it, no matter what I draw, no matter who I draw. Same thing goes for these ones. You can still, especially here, you can still see the basic shapes. I'm doing this back. And that's really all I ever do. It's just these kinds of shapes. You don't need anything fancy, you don't need anything extra. Just get the bare bones down first and work from there. And the best advice that I can give anyone who wants to get better at drawing, who wants to learn how to draw, isn't start with the basics. While it will definitely help you to learn the basics, it can also discourage you, because a lot of people have the need to be good at something right when they start it, and when you aren't good at it the first time, you will stop. You will try to find cheat codes, you'll try to do things that maybe you shouldn't do, stealing, tracing, all that, just because you want to improve. And that's not really how to do it. The way that I learned to draw, I've been drawing since I was a kid. I've been drawing my entire life. And I'm still not very good at it. I'm still learning new things every single day. How to draw different facial features, how to draw different kinds of muscles, how to draw different kinds of people. But the very best advice that I wish somebody had told me is draw what you enjoy. Don't start practicing something because somebody told you that's the right way to do it. Everybody has their own way of doing things. What you should do is draw the things that you find enjoyable. Draw the things that you like drawing. Because if you like drawing cats, draw a bunch of cats. Learn the anatomy of cats. Just keep on drawing those cats until it looks good. If you like drawing people, draw people. Draw different facial features that you enjoy. Just draw what you enjoy, because that is the best way to improve. Just doing what you like. Because if you like it, if you're proud of it, you're gonna want to keep doing it. And that's the best advice that anyone can ever have. Alright? Now, this is the end of the video. If you want me to go more in depth, I can make another video on this subject. This was just the very basics of anatomy, how I do it. So, I hope you have a good day, have a good time, whatever time it is. I hope you have a good time, and I will see you all around.